Section 6, The Future I See. The last thing I would like to do is take the chance to describe what I think a world run by this system might be like. Though there is way too much I could talk about, I couldn't possibly cover it all here. I will try to cover as much as I can in a general overview. When you are born, you are already in a better position than most children born today. With all the necessities of life made available to everyone, no longer will a parent give birth to a child without adequate shelter to raise the child in. Then, as you grow, you will likely grow stronger and healthier than the average child today, as your parents will never be without the food and health care required during your development. Not to mention, without your parents being forced to leave your side in order to work for what they need to provide for your survival, your parents will have little to no reason not to spend your entire adolescence by your side. Along with all this, your parents will have access to the best education available, both for teaching them how to properly raise a child and eventually for immersing you within. Though I guarantee the education system is going to change without the influence of a monetary system, I cannot even guess how it will change. What I would like to see would be something like a 3-tiered system. The first tier would be little more than a giant daycare/play center, with the area split into different sections, including a padded area with soft toys for newborns and infants to roam and play, safely learning how to walk and develop other motor skills. Also, a larger play area with toys and games for toddlers to work and play. You would also need a jungle gym or playground for the larger kids to run around and be able to burn off all that excess energy. Then, there would have to be a quiet area for reading and writing or working on structured packets, maybe even a nap area. Finally, there would be rooms with stadium-like seating with small seats down low for the children and larger seats up top for the adults. With a stage set in the center, it would be suitable to give story times, perform shows for the children, or otherwise hold lectures for parents to attend on parenting. This would give parents a place to bring their children as early as they felt comfortable to have social interactions with children their own age, even when siblings and cousins are not available, as well as providing an environment specifically designed for the child's safety and education. Also, rather than parents needing to clutter their homes with hundreds of toys, books, and arts and crafts supplies to try to give their child the best opportunities to develop, those things can be kept at the play center, and only the 5 things that are piquing the child's interest that week need be kept at the home. The second tier education center would be the closest thing to modern schools. With different sections divided into the basic fields of academics, this would include mock labs and other areas designed to familiarize children with the different environments they may find while pursuing more advanced academics. The supplies would be limited to that which you would give an elementary schooler, so it would be a safe place for children who have developed some independence to learn on their own with less need for parental supervision, as well as providing a place parents can bring their child to focus on a subject they seem deficient in. Here will also be more of the lecture halls, designed less for children's projects and shows, and more for demonstrations and informative lectures. The third and final tier of education centers I envision would be the largest and most numerous, as I feel that many people would end up spending the majority of their lives in these facilities. Most of the area used for these centers would be devoted to different lecture halls. some with labs designed to demonstrate different scientific studies, others with shops in order to demonstrate art, engineering, and architectural techniques, and others with large holographic displays for general informative lectures, just to name a few examples. When I was younger, I had a literal dream of one such education center. I remember walking down the hall of what I considered a college and noted the area was populated, but not with the crowded rush I was used to between classes at school. As I stepped into a room, I saw a large, round room with stadium-like seating reaching high towards the ceiling, at least 30 rows deep. In the center of the room was a large round table. Seeming to stand on the table was a holographic image of a large reptilian creature. Extending above the table in the air were numerous other creatures spread out in what I thought looked like an extremely efficient three-dimensional evolutionary tree. I remember examining the tree for a few moments before waking from my dream. In any case, adjacent to these lecture halls would be labs, shops, and studios equipped with the best equipment available to practice any field of study you may have interest in. Not only making these an ideal place for a youth that has advanced beyond the general studies of the second-tier centers, but also an ideal place for an adult to work on their projects in an organized environment. Not only consolidating our tools and resources, but providing the opportunity for others to assist in matters beyond your skill, or at least be present in the case of emergencies. This would also likely be where you would go to receive any certification tests that could not be done remotely. This would allow children to start their education as early as they were capable, advance their education at their own pace, and grant them access to the education at any time during their lives. Plus, aside from your parents' influence, you would be free to pursue your ambitions wherever they took you, even if it did not involve attending an education center. Even if you were not inclined to use your citizen's registration, there would be no obligation to do so. You would still have access to all the necessities of life as anyone else, and the share of resources you are responsible for would simply be devoted to public works projects the entirety of your life. Meanwhile, you would still be free to visit the market anywhere in the world and access any food that is available to any other citizen of the world. Without the concern to limit an individual's consumption, the system would simply need to track what was being consumed from each region in order to facilitate production and distribution. You would be free to visit any medical center and be treated for any ailment that afflicted you. Without the influence of the monetary system, this process could be streamlined as many of the questions on intake could be done through an automated process, freeing up more time for the medically trained experts to actually diagnose and treat patients. You would have access to any residence that was not presently occupied, whether it be a home, an apartment, or hotel, or even just a pod. Though there will always be people who wish to live in a large home or other structure of their own design, I feel the majority of our population would adopt a more semi-nomadic lifestyle, moving to different places depending on ambition and weather. This can be accommodated by the building of numerous hotel and apartment-like structures. With rooms of varying sizes available, we could be able to accommodate different intended periods of occupation and different family sizes. Then, through the application of smart home technology such as digital picture frames, color-changing walls, and personalized climate control systems, We could program our preferred environmental settings and upload them to a system in wherever residence we move to, instantly adding our own personal flair to any available residence, making it instantly feel like home. You would have access to any tool, equipment, or vehicle that does not require some form of certification to operate. Anything that is already produced and available does not require the consideration of your personal shares of resources. Somebody else already commissioned the creation of that item, or the system decided on its creation for the efficient use of our community, taking the resources from those applied to public works projects. As the resources needed to create it have already been used, the item is considered the common heritage of all humanity, and free to use if not being already used. Any task that requires specialized equipment such as fishing, rock climbing, carpentry, blacksmithing, etc. can be performed on a whim with access to the equipment available to everyone. Then, that equipment can immediately be returned or recycled if that whim turns out to be fleeting. You would even be able to access the global database to see what tasks people have commissioned, what tasks are available in your area needing someone's attention, and the urgency of the pending tasks. You could see what resources were available around the world, what we were producing, what we were consuming, and what we anticipate is available for us to access. You would even be able to draw up proposals for tasks that other people could decide to devote their resources to. If your task is significant enough to be labeled as a public works project, then you have essentially devoted your resources to your own project without even registering. Then, of course, with registration, or when the system evolves beyond what I envisioned, you would have access to everything within your abilities. Finally, you would be able to travel anywhere in the world to marvel at the many wonders this planet has to offer. True freedom.